Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we'll be doing more on the U.S. Constitution. Today we will be doing Amendment 20. Now it's one of a pretty good length, so it's the only one we're going to do today. As always, I'll read from my American Constitutional Law book. But buckle in because this is, I think, a six-section amendment. So. Amendment 20, originally in 1933, became constitutional law in 1933. Amendment 20, Section 1. The terms of President and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of Senators and Representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. Section 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3. If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the President-elect shall have died, the Vice President-elect shall become President. If a President shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the President-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the Vice President-elect shall act as President until a President shall have qualified, and the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a President-elect nor a Vice President-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as President, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a President or Vice President shall have qualified. Section 4. The Congress may by law provide for the case of death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them. And for the case of death of any persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them. Section 5. Sections 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratifications of this article. Section 6. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission. So that is Amendment 20. There's a lot going on. It corresponds with the election of Franklin Delano Roosevelt as president in 1933, because that's when Roosevelt took office. But apparently, this had been being debated for a long time before Roosevelt even took office, because prior to the amendment, the president didn't have didn't take office until March the 4th, which and was also the same for members of Congress, March the 4th. And a lot of this was done because America was still a very agricultural nation. Um, we can even see this in original text of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 2. It stated that Congress must meet at least once a year, but it was originally the first Monday in December, though it was empowered to set another date. And actually, it was put into place as a tradition by the Articles of Confederation before the Constitution was fully adopted. But this amendment changes it to the first, or rather, the third day, the 3rd of January. And the president and vice president to the 20th of January rather than March the 4th. This helped make it easier to prevent any shenanigans that usually happened in the first of the year that a new president was to take effect, because sometimes they would call sessions, outgoing presidents would call sessions of the Senate to confirm cabinet or key executive nominations. But yeah, um, we can also see another thing that kind of outsets from this is the Presidential Succession Act, passed by President Harry Truman in 1947. Originally, in 1792, when the act was first put into place, uh, it said that the Senate President pro tempore and the Speaker of the House are in the line of succession. But in 1886, Congress actually removed them from the line of succession, and Truman's 1947 law reinserted the officials. But instead, the Speaker moved ahead of the President pro tempore in Truman's law. Let's see. And so you'll see often in the line of succession to the president, you have president, vice president, Speaker of the House, president pro tempore of the Senate. I think there's another member of the Senate, and then you get into the cabinet. I think. Let me look that up. Presidential line of succession. Okay. Yeah, Vice President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, President pro tempore of the Senate. Okay, so then it goes into the cabinet. Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, then Commerce, then Labor, then Health and Human Services, then Housing and Urban Development, then Transportation, then Energy, then Education, then Veterans Affairs, then Homeland Security. So yeah. So that also comes into play here. Let's see. An interesting note, in 1945, and the death of FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, propelled the Vice President Truman into the presidency. Truman urged placing the Speaker as an elected representative of his district, as well as the chosen leader of the elected representative of the people, next in line to the Vice President. Since one could make the same argument for the President pro tempore, Truman's decision may have reflected his strained relationship with 78-year-old President pro tempore Kenneth McKellar and his warm friendship with 65-year-old House Speaker Sam Rayburn. So that may have included part of it in the 1947 Act. They're saying so. But yeah, those are some of the important points of this. Let's see if there's anything else we can really break down here. Section 1 of the amendment. That's just the changing of the date, which we already talked about. Section 2 changes it from Congress assembling in December to January the 3rd. Section 3 just says how the president and vice president shall assume office, but if the president isn't qualified, what happens, and if the vice president is qualified, what is to happen. Section 4 just saying Congress has the power to replace these people in the case of, to choose who goes in the case of the death of both, if that choice devolves upon them. Section 5, when it takes effect, and Section 6, just saying this doesn't happen unless the law is ratified. So, but yeah, Amendment 20 of the United States. A lot to think about there. But I will go ahead and list the sources in the description below the video. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.